Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, members. This is Simon Moran, your President of the Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce. Just thought I would give you a video update about our progress in the first 60 days of being the President and the first 60 days of having our new board. First up, I want to say thank you to the sponsors who have continued to support us, and we certainly look forward to your continued support. It is a little bit challenging, but we're very thankful for your support. Number two, we wanted to make sure that the board was able to settle in and then hit the ground running. We have a very professional board, all highly accomplished and very well experienced, so that we can be able to implement what we need to be doing. Number three, we wanted to increase the profitability or the contribution margin from our events. And I'm pleased to say that in the first 60 days, we've lifted that by 30%. This has been done through greater attendance, cost reductions, and a very supportive hotel network that have been able to support the goals that we wanted to achieve in such a short period of time. Number four, we've re-established the subcommittees, and this has been very important to be able to engage members and their contribution directly on subcommittees. It's stronger than ever. And now we have extended feedback and advice coming in from members directly. This has meant that we're able to actively pursue hospitality, industry, education, SME, digital, and also advocacy. These are the hallmarks of how we will be able to engage with you so that we can make sure we run really good events and for us to have enlightened information coming forward that's very timely. We've spent a lot of time, number five, we've spent a lot of time on member engagement directly. And this has meant me spending a lot of time listening to the members and for the board members to be listening to the members about what their greatest pressures are. Number six, we've spent a lot of time with DFAT and Austrade. So that's with Adam and Cameron respectively, who both do a fantastic job. We're very thankful for their continued commitment and their skills as we move forward. Number seven, we're back in the room with the Board of Trade and with the joint foreign chambers. Now, whilst the Australian Chamber is not actually a member of the JFCC, we are in the room, well, I've been in the room, so that we can listen to what the other chambers are recommending to the government in terms of legal changes or regulatory change, and we will eventually get our voice back. So next, we're going to move into stage two, which is some structural things, and we're also going to move into more marketing, changing our marketing messaging, because we need to make sure that's cleaned up a bit. So thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to the next 60 days. If you have any questions, please reach out directly to the Chamber or to me personally, and we hope to see you at an event coming up very soon. Thanks.
And thank you, Simon. It's great to see AustCham Thailand progressing so well over the past 3 months. Coming up in this episode, we're going to welcome John Anderson. He's the Deputy Managing Director of Meinhardt Thailand, and he's going to go into more detail about the data centre boom. Also on this episode, we have Jake McIntosh, President of AFL Thailand. Stay with us. Welcome back. In our business section today, we're doing a follow-up conversation to our April business briefing. In that briefing, we had Meinhardt lead on a data centre boom presentation. So we thought we'd bring the moderator along. John Anderson, Deputy Managing Director of Meinhardt Thailand. John,
Hello,
welcome.
Brendan. Thank you for having me today.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming in. John, the April briefing on the data centre boom, it was one of those business briefings that the event was full. There wasn't an empty seat in the house. And when we finished, everyone stood up, and usually after a briefing, everyone runs upstairs to have a couple of drinks at Sundowners. Everyone stayed in the room talking about, that was really interesting. Did you know about this? Did you see that? Why do you think, what was a really key message from that briefing that resonated so much with the members that night?
Yeah, look, I think the whole data center revolution here in Thailand is certainly very topical at the moment. It's been attracting an enormous amount of investment. So last year it was 728 billion baht invested in data centers. So 35 new data centers were approved by the BOI. So it's gone from probably more sort of speculative talk to actually happening. So a lot of these data centers are now actually being rolled out, and that's having an impact. So there's a land grab that's going on. So there's basically a scarcity of good locations to build these things, and there's issues such as people are now concerned about the power consumption and water consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it all mean for people in Thailand? You know, so I think it's of interest beyond just the IT sector.
Right. And part of that briefing, you and the other panelists really did touch on this quite extensively around the challenges, of course. There's big opportunities, but a lot of challenges. You mentioned things like power availability, water, what you just mentioned now, grid infrastructure, cooling, land, permitting, sustainability. There was a whole list of them.
Correct.
What is the one or two issues that really are potentially going to bring this to a halt?
Okay, well, absolutely, it's certainty of power.
Right.
So without power, you don't have a data center. I mean, the other factors are important, but it's not that Thailand doesn't have enough power. It's a case of these data centers have to be in specific locations. They do need large pieces of land often. I mean, they're not all located on the eastern seaboard, some are in Bangkok, but there's a certainty of power, and it's reliability of that power. And they need to be able to plan for the power. So some of them are built as campuses, meaning they'll build perhaps one of several phases, and the power needs to ramp up over that development period. So when they start building, they need to know that there is going to be power available on day one of its operations. So that requires transmission infrastructure, it requires substations, it requires reliability of that power. So power is absolutely number one. But there are other factors I've mentioned, or you've mentioned some of them. Water is another big issue. So these, and perhaps it's surprising for people not involved in this sector, but these data centers are like power stations. Right. They're huge air-conditioned spaces or cooled spaces, the data halls themselves, where all the server racks are located. They have massive generators with diesel, fuel storage, but the cooling is provided mostly in Thailand. It's water cooled chillers. So they all use water in massive quantities of it, and so water, even though a lot of these plants we can recycle, there's still the demand on water is quite massive.
So would that be around the management of the water as well then through the dams and?
Well, essentially, when we choose the sites, and Meinhardt's quite involved in the sort of initial due diligence, technical due diligence for site selection, we've got to make sure that the water is available, because within the industrial estate, there may be competing industries.
Right.
So it's a case of securing a certain amount of water. And obviously that's part of the negotiation with the industrial estate. If you're outside an industrial estate, then you really, it can be a little bit more difficult to secure that water.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if you run out of water, it's a disaster. If you run out of electricity, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
These things cannot be interrupted. So obviously the backup power, the generators are there in case the power cuts off. The power rarely cuts off. The power in Thailand is pretty stable and reliable, but you can never afford for it to cut off, because obviously the data would be lost.
So you and I spoke in a separate conversation before the filming today as well about the labour needs, and the civil, mechanical, electrical engineers have been around for quite some time working on buildings, factories, etc. But the need for building data centres has skyrocketed. And so my question, I guess, is the talent pool there? And that's actually something someone like me should know, but I'm asking you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the skill set is very much engineering led. So so from the design phase, it's heavily mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering centric. So there's obviously a lot of mechanical and electrical systems in these facilities. So the engineers do exist, but they have had to sort of upskill to learn, basically, you know, specialize in that data center sector. So whilst there's been high demand and limited supply, there's been a grab for these sort of highly skilled staff. So that's led to, you know, increasing cost of employment.
Right.
Post-construction, data centers actually surprisingly don't employ a lot of people. The number of people actually working in data centers is quite few compared to, say, the construction part or the design part of it. But they still need certain people for, you know, security, making sure all the machinery is working, you know, high skilled technicians, maintenance, and actually the commissioning of all this machinery to make sure that it is actually running in accordance with the specifications. So yeah, so I would say lots of people during the construction, less so afterwards. Yeah.
Let's just look at the other side. So there are a lot of big challenges, but 35 data centers being built just recently, as you mentioned. What would Thailand's attractiveness be? Because speaking to other professionals in Southeast Asia in general, when I'm on my travels, everyone wants a piece of this pie.
Sure.
What is Thailand's attractiveness versus our friends, competitors in Southeast Asia?
The neighbouring countries. So the data center boom in Southeast Asia started in Singapore.
Right.
But actually the Singapore government sort of legislated to, you know, basically made, they curbed the number of new data centers by restricting power access. So they were mindful of the fact that they've got limited space there. These things are very power hungry, water hungry, as I mentioned. So then we saw the sort of data centers move to Johor in Malaysia. So there was a huge boom in southern Malaysia there in the Johor location, which is obviously close to Singapore. But beyond that now, extending to Thailand, Indonesia, throughout the region, even Vietnam. So why Thailand? Well, you know, Thailand's got a lot of the things that you need to build a data center. So we mentioned skilled labor force, you know, construction, engineering capability. So that exists here. We've got access to land, we've got access to power, water. We're also in a very stable political, you know, environment, a neutral sort of country that sits somewhere between China and America, you know, isn't necessarily aligned to any great power. So the people who operate these data centers, whether it's a hyperscaler or whether it's someone building for co-location who is trying to attract an end user, Thailand's a rather attractive place because you're going to attract Chinese end users, the ByteDances, the TikToks of the world. You can also get the American hyperscalers here coming here. Australian NextDC has been looking at Thailand very actively as well. So I think altogether, that's a good combination. But the challenge is in delivery, right? So we've mentioned that it's all starting to happen now, but a few of these data centers actually are actually operating. A few of them are operating,
right?
But obviously we need to see that they can operate reliably and without any problems, you know, running out of water, power, no issues with the construction. So there's a great opportunity for Thailand, and it's really now about whether it can deliver on the promises of all the things it's made.
So it all sounds very interesting, and I could see the attraction of Thailand for the region. But also you've outlined there are potential risks as well. So what do you think Thailand needs to do in the next, say, 3 to 5 years to really cement itself as a regional hub for data centers? And you're in this field, what role do you
Will
think
Meinhardt
Meinhardt can
yeah.
play? Yep.
Yeah, sure. So I had touched on it. So certainty of power. So in terms of planning, rolling out that grid, how much we need to add extra capacity. Developers need to know where that power will be, where it's going to be located, transmission line increasing, that substations, so all that power infrastructure. But also, it's important to mention that that power, currently a lot of it's from gas or coal, needs to move to renewable power. So a lot of the American hyperscalers, starting with them, they want to see renewable power. So everyone knows these data centers use massive amounts of electricity. So rather than burning fossil fuels, they want to see a move to renewable power. So Thailand, again, needs to plan the rollout of renewable power. And we're seeing that in sort of wind farms and solar. So certainty in permitting. So the regulatory environment, we need certainty there. So data centers themselves are currently not classified as any type of specific building.
Right.
They fall between the cracks. They're actually classified usually as some sort of warehouse. So again, that sort of stuff probably needs to be cleaned up a bit, and a bit more certainty around the planning, the permitting, the regulatory issues with data center planning.
Are you seeing progress on that as well? Are you
Actually,
seeing those conversations?
For us as a company, particularly with the 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗶, that's the Department of Energy. So basically, the people responsible if you want to build to store fuel.
Right.
So there's been a lot of sort of tweaking of the requirements in that area because they were really designed around storing fuel for petrol stations and other industrial applications, but not having, so a lot of within these data centers, so the pods, they're located, the generators, they actually have tanks underneath them, belly tanks. So the fuel is sort of scattered around the site. So they've had to sort of change the regulations to match the requirements for these particular setups. So we have seen development. I mean, the BOI they've been driving this investment growth, and the others have been, they realise how important it is for Thailand. It's attracted, as I mentioned, massive amount of influx of foreign investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the other area, which your area, Brendan, is obviously in terms of upskilling.
Right.
The labour force. So I think they will continue to need, these data centers will continue to expand and develop as new technologies come along as well. They'll probably have to be renovated. And so we need a pool of skilled professionals, technicians to be working in this sector. So probably more focus on that as well.
Okay. That would be an interesting conversation to further with education providers across the country and our countrymen in Australia as well.
And to answer the second question you had was, so how can a company like Meinhardt benefit? So Meinhardt being a consulting engineering firm, we are across advisory, design, and then construction management, like project management of all sorts of buildings. But data centers are a very large part of our business now. So we start early. We are often our services are sought to help with the actual site selection. So we may look at a number of different locations together with some of the real estate people, the CBREs, the JLLs and Cushman, etc. But their expertise more in the land transaction stuff. Ours is in technical due diligence. So we mentioned quite a few of the things that we're looking for, power, but in addition to that, flood risk. We don't want a site that floods. The geotechnics, what sort of foundation system are we going to have to use? So there's soil contamination. So we're now having to start to look at brownfield sites because some of these data centers are located in inner city areas and there's an existing building and sometimes the land is contaminated. So it needs to be decontaminated. So there's quite a lot of environmental testing that has to go on in advance
Right.
before a site is finally selected. So we're certainly involved in that,
Right.
and we are also then involved in the design.
Mm-hmm.
So for both the from architectural, structural, civil, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering design, we're across all of that.
Right.
We're often leading these projects, so we're project managing them, and then ultimately, after it goes to tender and a contractor is selected, we're supervising the construction. So ensuring that the owner gets what they paid for, and the design that we drew and specified is actually finally executed on site. So there's quite a few services there. But for others, and perhaps some of the members, there's good opportunities in facility management of these facilities post construction. So that's another area where these centres will need to be managed,
Right.
particularly for the co-location where you've got multiple tenants. You may have a number of companies who are taking up space
Right.
within the data centre.
Mm-hmm. So going back to, you have a first briefing with a client, through to your initial planning stages, of testing the soil, etc., through to going live. What kind of timelines are we looking at?
So Brendan, it probably depends on how large it is. So a few years ago, these data centres were quite tiny in comparison. It was often banks who required them. Maybe 4 megawatt was considered large. Now data centres being planned are in the gigawatts. In fact, in Melbourne, Australia, there's one that's being planned currently for 2.4 gigawatts.
Right.
So the average size at the moment in Thailand, a lot of them are around about 100 megawatts,
Wow.
some a bit bigger than that. But a project like that, I mean, the developers are in a race to get these things designed and constructed as fast as possible, right? So realistically, though, something of that size is going to take probably still 2 years.
Right.
And that's fast-tracking things. The planning, the permitting, the construction. I mean, there is quite a reasonable amount of design that goes into them. I mean, it can be slightly faster, but there's also the lead time for some of the equipment. So a lot of the equipment is imported, and there are long wait lists because there's demands throughout the world for this equipment.
Right.
So the long lead equipment may sometimes take 6, 8, 9 months to arrive in the country.
Mm-hmm.
China is certainly helping to accelerate things. A lot of equipment, they can get equipment here quite quickly, but
Right.
some of our clients, particularly the Western countries, American clients, are pretty specific about the equipment that goes into their data centers, and they have specific brands that they're more familiar with. So that's a part of the planning exercise. Yeah.
Okay. And I think my final question, I want to bring everything together. We've talked about big opportunities, increasing the size of the data centers. We've talked about the speed. We're in a race to get them built.
Yep.
And then we've also talked about the challenges around power supply, water supply, other potential permitting, etc. So my final question then is around responsible growth. So we've got everything needs to be bigger, faster, better tomorrow, and we've got potential restrictions on why this can't be. You also mentioned about the renewable energy, wind farms, etc. What does responsible growth look like?
What is responsible? Okay, well, it probably starts with the BOI.
Right.
And I think the BOI now is a bit more focused on, in terms of the sort of concessions and various offerings. It's now looking very much at sustainability, what jobs are going to be generated in Thailand, not only post-construction, but during the construction. So obviously they're keen on seeing upskilling of and jobs for Thai people. So responsible, we do not want an issue where, the average household consumer is paying more for their electricity,
Right.
because there's a data center down the road consuming massive amounts of power.
Mm-hmm.
That would look pretty bad. And similarly with water, if the farmers haven't got access to warm water, or other industries are missing out on water, or the average consumer. So But there's an upside to all this, you know, having these this very large investment in the country, particularly if some of that money could stay in the country. So if they're using local contractors and local suppliers, you know, a lot of that money ends up staying in Thailand. Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. John, very exciting times ahead. I think this conversation will continue in a couple of months, 6 months, a year. And I look forward to bringing you back in the studio maybe a year from now and seeing what the...
Correct, yeah, well...
we're looking at.
Well, now with obviously AI, so AI is just accelerating the need for data centers. So all that data has to be stored somewhere. So whether you're using your telephone, whether you're using internet banking, whether you're watching Netflix, whether you're using Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it might be, 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗃, you know, all of that data resides somewhere. So I think in terms of an industry, it is accelerating. It's not going to go away. I don't think it's a flash in the pan.
Right.
It's here to stay. The next big issue is whether any of us will have jobs in the future, but that's another talk. Yeah.
That's another long and continuing conversation.
Correct, yes, yeah.
Great. Thanks, John. John Anderson, Deputy Managing Director of Meinhardt, Thailand. And welcome back. In our community section today, we're talking to a guest who's very close to my heart, I must say that. We welcome Jake McIntosh, the President of the Thailand Tigers Australian Football Club. Jake, how are you?
Well, Brendan, thank you.
Great to have you in here. As anyone knows, I'll talk about the Thailand Tigers any opportunity I get. So bringing you in to promote the club and tell us all the wonderful things you've been doing, I think it's very timely because you've had a lot of success. But before we jump into that, for anyone who doesn't, for strange reason, know the Thailand Tigers, just give us a little snapshot of the past 30 years.
So the Thailand Tigers are the only Australian rules football club in Thailand. As you said, it's our 30th anniversary this year. So club was founded in 1996, infamously by a couple of guys kicking a football in Lumpini Park. And it kind of extrapolated from there, and more people got involved, and a little bit of a social scene started to form. And then international tours with the first tour to Hong Kong, as well as visits from Vietnam and other surrounding countries came in subsequent years. And the club's grown, as well as AFL Asia growing as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've been involved in lots of different things over the years, but a lot of what we do now is community service work and working closely with the 𝗔𝘂𝘃𝗃𝗃 Foundation.
Yes.
And actually, you mentioned before the Thailand Tigers, and the Thailand Tigers is the international team that plays within the AFL Thailand banner, and that's kind of one of the developments that we've had recently. Right. So AFL Thailand is the official body in Thailand that's registered. And international tournaments, the Thailand Tigers play, but we also have a team in Phuket, the Phuket Power.
Right.
The Phuket Power, maybe not everyone knows about them, but they're doing wonderful things down there. Lots of development coming from that region of the world. We certainly want to expand into other areas, Hua Hin, Chiang Mai. Got one of our stalwarts of the club based in Chiang Mai, so he's chomping at the bit to try and get something going up there. And then another really important part of the club is the Thailand Serpents. The Thailand Serpents is the Thai national team. Right. And so the national men's team and national women's team, all of those come under the banner of AFL Thailand.
That's just so impressive as someone who's from afar in recent years watched the club develop. We all love what we call the great game, and to see it develop the way it has done in Thailand, I know you please a lot of people, even if they're not involved in the club. For watching from afar, they're quite pleased with how it's going. We're looking at the expansion. 2 points in particular I'd like to touch on over the past decade or so. One is the expansion of the women's team, which has really followed in tandem with the way that Australia and the AFL has done it. Can you tell us a bit about how that's grown?
Yeah, so before my involvement with the Thailand Tigers or AFL Thailand, I was actually based in London, and the club that I was involved with there introduced a women's team, and I saw how beneficial that was to the club, to the social impact that the club has, the relationships that you have within the club, the sense of family and the culture that you build. So coming to Thailand, it was something we kind of wanted to do really, really quickly.
Good.
We kicked it off just before COVID, and then COVID was a really challenging time. So we've been building things back up, but our women's team have been around for a good 6 or 7 years now, really competitive. At the Asian Champs last year, they were the highest ranked team after the pool games, and unfortunately weren't able to get the win, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. Have had some success on the field now, and when you look at our women's team now, it is a bunch of a mixture of people, some from Australia, some from England, some from New Zealand, some from many other countries around the world, and then there's at least 50% of the team that is Thai locals. And I'd say probably the star player in the team now is a young girl from our Cubs program, and has absolutely taken to the sport like nothing else. So it's a great environment to be in, the women. We'll have 2 teams at the upcoming Asian Champs, 2 women's teams. We're the first club in AFL Asia to ever have 2 women's teams in a tournament. So that says a little bit about the success of the girls.
It's great, and I know the player you're talking about, Benz. She has a little fan club in the stands whenever playing. She goes near the ball, everyone gets excited. Oh, there's Ben, she's got it again. Wow, look at her go. Super impressive the way she plays. And you mentioned she's part of the Cubs, and that's part of the 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗃𝗃 program. So I think that's, once again, I keep using the word impressive, the way that program's grown, and AustCham will support that as well. Tell us about that.
So Cubs is a program, it's actually an acronym for Communities United by Sport. And so the Cubs program is the section that we're involved with within the 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗃𝗃 Foundation. So the 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗃𝗃 Foundation and Crew Prateep, who leads that foundation, is an amazing woman. I'm so lucky to have had a lot of involvement with her over the years. She's absolutely fantastic. But we've been working with the 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗃𝗃 Foundation now for about 10 years. And like anything, when you start off, the relationship needs a little bit of time to develop. And our involvement was always involved with facilitating secondary school education for the scholarship participants. And so we started, I think, initially back in 2016 with a few boys who received scholarships to school, and in return they came and learnt footy. And what we wanted to teach them when they played footy was all of those skills that you learn from team sports. So, good teamwork and leadership and camaraderie and doing things for your mate and sticking up for each other, all those types of skills that we get from the great game of Aussie rules. But as that program's developed, we now have scholarships for 16, roughly, give or take a few each year, 16 boys and 16 girls. And all of them play football with us as well. And yeah, we couldn't do that without the financial sponsors that we have and the supporters that we have. I think AustCham is a huge sponsor and have been for a number of years. AustCham particularly facilitate the scholarships for the girls. So we had some of the girls come down to a Sundowners event recently, and they are direct recipients of those scholarships that come from AustCham. So they get a bursary every quarter for school. There's conditions with that. So they need to maintain grades, they need to maintain attendance at school, and they also need to maintain attendance of football on the weekends. So the girls tend to be a little bit younger than the boys. The boys are a tad older now. What is really nice to see is that some of these boys they might not look it, but they're 20 years old or 21 years old, so they're no longer in school. They're no longer receiving scholarships, but they're still coming down to football every week.
Excellent.
And the reason they're doing that is because they're involved in that team atmosphere and they want to be there.
Part of the club.
They want to be part of the club.
I
think the missing link for us is what can we do with these kids when they graduate school? And it's something we're always trying to find the best fit for. and yeah, looking at pathways into work or tertiary education scholarships and things like that is probably the next wave of what we do with the 𝗔𝘂𝘃𝗃𝗃 Foundation.
And I think that will continue the conversation offline, of course, but I think that's something AustCham can contribute to as well. Obviously, we have a big pool of companies that could help with internships and upskilling, etc. So
Yeah.
definitely something we can follow through on. You mentioned AustCham is a good supporter through that, and I know that comes through the overall CSR programs that AustCham do. There's also ways that other companies can contribute AustCham, or other companies can get involved. There is one Australian company in particular that I know is a super supporter of the Thailand Tigers and the Cubs and all the programs, right? Can you tell us about that?
So 𝗔𝘂𝘀𝘶𝗃𝗃𝗃 is the one, and Gerard there is, he's probably done more for local participation in Aussie rules, but also supporting underprivileged youth
Right.
in the area of Southeast Asia than anyone else I can think of.
Right.
He sponsors Thailand, but he also sponsors a lot of money for Cambodia as well.
Right.
And so he's been with us for a number of years now, and really he's made a real difference to some of those children's lives. The other company I need to mention is the Australia Council Thailand.
Right.
They're really solid and regular supporters of the scholarship programs as well. But you know, any other companies can get involved as well, and any amount is fantastic for us. We separate kind of sponsorship that we get. We do have some sponsors who would come and sponsor AFL Thailand, the Thailand Tigers, in order to help us get to our international tours, pay for our training fees, those types of things. But the majority of companies want to get involved in the CSR work.
Right.
And so we do have distinct accounts that are separate for that. So if a company were to say, you know, we like what you're doing, we want to have some involvement, you can do that, and rest assured that the funds are being used directly to the scholarships and the development of those kids we were talking about.
Right. And it's all building, whether you're a footy fan or not, it's all building this one great Australian community. Obviously, AustCham, Thailand Tigers, Australian Council Thailand, and then the Australian companies who get involved. It's nice to be part of one big, strong community.
Yeah, I think for the way we've seen it, and not everyone has the time available or able to give the time needed in order to do a successful kind of CSR program.
Right.
We, I think, are able to do that. We are volunteers, and we have our day jobs as well. But you know, there's a couple of really important people in our club. You know, 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗃 and Mark Saunders, who do so much and probably see those kids as part of their own family.
Right.
So that's really made it a lot more worthwhile, and it's built the connection with us. But you know, as a player in the team and the president of the club, when I go down and see these kids who are now adults.
Yes.
We know we have great relationships because we've played footy with each other over the years, and we've supported them, so they've got a real thanks for us as well. But to see them grow up as young adults now is such a privilege, and they're just lovely young people.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about on-field success. So it was only 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, that Thailand Tigers back-to-back Indochina Cups.
That's correct, yeah. So as an ex-star player of the club, Brendan, you would know that there has probably been some different points of success and some different points of not so much success on field for the Thailand Tigers.
That's right.
You know, we set some pretty lofty goals a few years ago to make sure that we're the powerhouse club of Southeast Asia, and we're starting to finally see those results on the field. So you're right, the Indochina Cup was held in Laos last weekend. Our men went back-to-back, so they won for the second year in a row,
Right.
really convincingly. And the girls, I alluded to this before, but the girls lifted the cup for the very first time in their history. So always important to do that, because it breeds that sense of winnativity. And
Yes.
Yeah.
And Asian champs must be only 2 months away. So we're looking for that.
Yeah, it's looking good. We are hosting, I think, for the 7th year in a row now. So we have a huge advantage of playing on home soil. But we'll enter two men's teams and 2 women's teams for the Asian Champs this year. So there's going to be, you know, close to 100 participants playing for Thailand Tigers across the men's and the women's divisions, including all of the participants of our Cubs program as well. We normally have 700 players from around Asia coming down, and increasingly more spectators coming down for the game as well. Our men's team will be, I think, the hot favourite going into Div 2, or certainly one of the favourites. And our women's teams in both Division 1 and Division 2 should be really big chances as well.
And you could see why the crowds are growing for multiple reasons. That the quality of the game, the standard of the game raises every year because the focus on winning, as you mentioned, the training that goes into it increases each year. The facilities last year's facilities were just fantastic. So and then the hotels that come down, support and set up, it's a wonderful day out.
Yeah, I mean, you can come down as a spectator now and have a really great day out, watch some good footy, but also eat some really good food, have something to drink if you want to, and we always hope that the rain holds off each year, that time of year.
If not, there's plenty of tents. So a final point, looking at the club, it is success on field, which is breeding the success of the people involved. People love being part of the club, as you mentioned. Lots of opportunities to get involved in terms of CSR and other kind of support sponsorship. But just as a final point, can you give me a little peripheral of the club as well, including the social side, including AFL Grand Final, the fitness aspect of why people want to be involved, and also maybe just that little family feel? What are some of the things that grab people and keep people in a club for 20 plus years?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few things that the word family is a good one to say, because we not only have the senior football club, but we also have our AustCham, which we're always looking to grow, and anyone with young kids who are Australian or really from any country, but anyone who wants that little connection to home. Mm-hmm. There are 20,000 Australians in Thailand, I found out the other day, and we certainly haven't seen that many yet, but we'd love to see more young kids coming down and getting involved. All of those families who bring their kids down really enjoy being part of that program. Mm-hmm. Socially, we're a club that looks to, I think the word family is something that is used within our social committee all the time as well. We want to make sure we're doing events that are family friendly. You mentioned as well about people's fitness. We have a running club every Wednesday night. So anyone who ever wants to pop down to 𝗹𝗶𝘃𝗬 Park at 6:30 on a Wednesday night, you'll see the Thailand Tigers running laps around the lake in the middle. Yeah, there'll always be some colours there, black and yellow colours. You'll be able to spot us. And then we play games almost every weekend in Bangkok, with games in Phuket as well. And often we travel between Bangkok and Phuket, or we play games with other countries, a little bit of international travel, but there's lots going on. And I think I've lived in a few different countries around the world, but the thing I've always done when I've moved to a new country is I've always found the local footy team. Yeah. And that for me is just been my easy way to find my community, to find somewhere that gives me that sense of home and that connection to where I'm from. And I think, probably everyone feels a little bit of that as well. And you certainly get that at the Thailand Tigers. So I think, getting the chance to make friends really easily, unconditionally, play sport together, it's a good thing.
It certainly brings back a lot of memories, Jake, sitting down and having this conversation. So thank you for that. For any AustCham members, if it is CSR related, sponsorship related, social, fitness, you can find Jake and a lot of the other Thailand Tigers. You'll see them in the colours at every Sundowners event, or reach out to the AustCham office. We can certainly connect you. So, Jake McIntosh, President of AFL Thailand, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Brandon. Cheers.
And that's our program for today. Remember, home is where the community is.
Right now, a building is turning into something more than glass and steel. An office is becoming a magnet for talent. A warehouse is becoming a stronger supply chain. A campus, the birthplace of the next breakthrough. A data center is becoming a catalyst for the new economy. Transformation begins with intelligence that senses what's next, with trust that stands against any headwind, with execution that turns vision into reality. For over 240 years, we've helped businesses and investors move first by turning data into intelligence, intelligence into decisions, and decisions into results. The world becomes something new every minute. The ones who thrive in it don't see what it is. They see what could be. JLL. See a brighter way.